Read my emails today.
Okay, this is live now.
Thank you. Anybody get my emails from Stone Age tables?
I saw them, yeah.
I will continue to send them
You
out
keep doing that.
until somebody looks at that and says, we need that.
Hello.
Yes, it is. I'm surprised that nobody's jumped on it and said, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
I think it is cool. I think it might be cool to move it. Until we have that figured out,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Thank you.
so keep sending them.
But it was in Portugal, they had these parks that had cool like chess tables.
Yeah.
At them. And, you know, a lot of the elders would sit and they'd be playing chess, and it was just such a neat, you know, like all ages being in the parks. And I remember that being, I was like, let's do that here. I have to apologize. I have a little vacuum system that just keeps making obnoxious noises.
A vacuum.
Yes, it's attached to the wound on my shin.
Oh,
It's much smaller than the original one.
okay.
It just keeps setting off these odd little noises. I'll just tuck it in this bag and I'll. I think that may work.
Are you ready? Yeah, good. Okay. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:59 p.m. and start out with our territorial acknowledgement. The town of Coalhurst is located in traditional Blackfoot Confederacy territory. We honor the Blackfoot people and their traditional ways of knowing and caring for this land, as well as all Indigenous peoples who have helped shape and continue to strengthen our community. And then we'll start here with the adoption of the previous minutes. Would somebody like to make a motion to adopt the 14th regular minutes? Councilor
I move for the adoption of the minutes of the 14th regular meeting held July 12th.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried, thank you. And then we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda. Did we have anything extra to add with these pieces here? Oh, we do have some there, okay. Councilor Flores, did you have something as well?
Yes, I was wondering if we could actually add a CAT conversation under the policy number 428-21, our CAT policy. We could add that under other.
Yeah, let's just see what we have here. Yeah, so we've got some amendments, so we can add that to the bottom there. Maybe we can do that before we go into the closed session.
Okay.
So I'm proposing that we just kind of switch this a little bit. So 9E would be the CAT discussion. And then we would just move those two down. Does that work for everybody? There's the additional amendments up there as well. All right, can I get somebody to make a motion to do that? Okay,
I move that we adopt the agenda as circulated with the following amendments, adding item 60, Elizabeth County notice of cancellation development permit number 2022-092. At 9E, Government of Alberta Justice and Solicitor General, the future of public policing in the webinar series, and at 9F, the personal W closed meeting, as section 21 foot.
I'm just gonna write those down.
And then there's item 9, or I don't know, we'll call it 9,
E, yeah, the count one.
count one,
Yeah,
G, 9G.
it's gonna be 9E, we're gonna bump those down so that we don't have to come out of closed session.
Okay, yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we got that written down here. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? That is carried. All right, so, we don't have any delegations or citizens without formal notice today, so we'll move right into business arising from the previous minutes. Is there anything in this section that anyone, would like clarification on or have any questions about? Or is there anything, how that you would like to highlight from those?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess the only one is the added on one that we did there.
Oh, yes.
That was in regards to the appeal that we had wanted to establish with the county regarding that particular development permit for that online auction business, home occupation 3. So due to a number of factors, financing, CP discussions, etc., the application has been withdrawn and therefore the appeal has been canceled. As of right now, so, today. Other than that,
Any other questions on any of the items?
No, just disappointed with our housing application, but sounds like we received a lot of them, so thank you for that update.
All right, if there's nothing there, and we'll move on to bylaws and reports. Starting with bylaw number 45722, the tax dates, installments and penalties. So yeah, I'm just gonna refer to you for this one, and then we can make the motion go forward.
all right, thank you, Madam Mayor. So this basically was something that was discussed at policy bylaw, and we have brought forward a couple of recommendations from that in terms of dealing with, first of all, we have sort of that prepayment discount that was being done for anybody that paid from January to June. It was determined that, there was not a lot of dollars. It was a fairly onerous administrative task for the dollars that were being. We do have the TIP program in place, which gives people a chance to pay throughout the year with no penalty. So, it was decided that we would delete that from this. And basically there was three bylaws actually. 2 were dealing with the penalties and that, and one was the TIP one. So now we rolled all 3 into one and made those changes accordingly for this. So basically it has the 12% on current taxes August 1st, 6% November 1st, and then on unpaid after that, arrears goes to 1.5, and then does offer the TIP installment plan if people choose to do as well. So, and gets rid of that other little discount or whatever you want to call it, prepayment incentive that was there.
Great, thank you. Would somebody like to make a motion to have the bylaw read for the first time?
On the motion. I move that bylaw number 437-22, a bylaw to establish dates, installments, and penalties is hereby read a first time.
Any discussion or questions?
No question, are the penalties that have been set forth, what are they based, are they based on, yeah, thanks for clarification, what are they based on?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, they're what's been in place for quite some time, I guess. And it's within the realms of the Municipal Government Act, as to penalties that we can charge. As far as how they were derived, like I say, they've been there for quite some time, so I'm not sure in terms of the logic. That's what they've been. So,
I'm sorry, what else did you have something to add?
No, I was just gonna say they're in alignment with what was previously in place.
All right, I'll question, all in favor? That's carried. Would somebody like to make a motion for the second reading?
I will.
Okay.
I move that bylaw 43722 is hereby read a second time.
Discussion? None, no question, all in favor? That's carried. And third reading.
I did.
Okay.
Move the third reading. Thanks. I'll move that bylaw number 437-22 be given 3 readings at this meeting.
Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. And the final motion.
I move that bylaw 437-22 abolish established dates, elements that counties in the current founding, and that the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to sign this bylaw.
Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Great, thank you. And now we're going to move on to the committee meeting minutes. First of all, starting with the policy bylaw review committee. Just gonna ask, does anybody have any questions on this? I do notice that we have a motion here as well. Any questions on the minutes before we move to the motion? If none, I'm not sure whose recommendation came from, or. Go ahead.
Mayor, actually, this recommendation came from the previous policy bylaw meeting.
Okay,
We just had the policy drafted for this meeting, so I just brought it forward here. So.
oh, perfect, okay. Can you speak to this a little bit?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So basically, the only thing we changed, I think you did get sort of the yellow highlighted version, which shows the changes that we made. And again, at the policy bylaw level, we had talked about the possibility of adding a $500 refundable deposit to ensure that water meters are installed at the correct time, and that basically that, you know, the curb stops can be turned on for pressure testing and back off, but then until it's structurally, once they're structurally complete, they must be installed. And this just gives us the chance to basically be able to have some in reserve, I guess, if people don't follow the rules. Because in some cases we were getting, plumbers or whatever would install meters and they would do their drywalling and their painting and whatever else, and not really tell us, but they would disconnect it once they sort of did that and stuff. So we weren't, we're not getting any reimbursement for that money. So this was basically, and this was basically a policy that Coldale number 1 had in place very similar to this. So we did discuss it again, say a policy bylaw as well with our code clerks and our utility clerk, and thought this was a good thing to put in. So.
Thank you. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Sure. I move that the Council of Town of Colhurst hereby approves policy number 660202, development permits as presented.
Any discussion? None, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. All right, so we're going to move on now. We do have a couple of different committee minutes here as well. So we've got Agriculture, MSDA, Agriculture again. And I'm just going to ask, and committee as a whole, does anybody have any amendments or any questions on any of the committees? Go ahead, Councilor Florence.
So I just have a question about the Rec and Culture Committee. From the minutes, I thought there was going to be a recommendation coming out of it. So there is no recommendation coming from the minutes? There is a recommendation?
Okay.
Page 55.
All right.
So in our agenda package though, like is it?
Yeah, in your agenda package, page 55.
Okay, so I did want to have a little bit of discussion about that budget, but I just had another question about the pancake breakfast. Was there, I'm sure there was a large discussion around this, but there is no pancake breakfast happening. That's a little bit sad. Is there a reason why, or is there a possibility of like maybe council partnering and being able to assist it to be able to make something happen?
Honestly, it really came down to the availability of volunteers to be able to sort of just organize and facilitate the pancake breakfast. So if we were able to, each component that happened was sort of put out to see who could step up and assist with it. And so nobody stepped up to assist with pancake breakfast. And if your city council would like to step up and sort of organize it and cook it, with your volunteers, relevant.
It was just something that I was noting and I wanted to ask, but I know that when we go to other communities and stuff, they've been asking about a pancake breakfast.
I know,
And
and
so
it's
I
so
just want to
disappointing.
ask about it.
Yeah, it's disappointing, but just not having the volunteers that are stepping up to do that, right?
Okay. And how does everybody feel about council possibly doing it? because it is something that has historically been served by council and our MLA and our MP.
I just don't know, like, my thought is that the parade's is it at 10 or 11?
Yeah,
Do we have enough
gone to
time?
the parade.
I mean, it would be tight, but I did want to throw it out there, so.
You know, I always enjoyed cooking it. I mean, but I think the challenge is all the pieces surrounding it, like getting the food and prepping it and, you know, just getting that space ready to go.
Yeah.
Like that's sort of where,
No, I totally get that. As somebody who's done it for years and years, I
well, I
do
know,
get that.
yeah, you know the work that went into it, and unfortunately, like my workload right now, I'm not able to step up and do those kinds of things right now, unfortunately.
All right, thank you for the info.
Yeah.
All right, and so there is a recommendation that was indicated.
Yeah, so not in the minutes of the 14th, but minutes of the July the 28th meeting. We had a quick meeting to sort of go over the budget today, and there was a recommendation brought forward to be able to support the budget. And you'll note in the minutes of the 28th, there was an error in the minutes. I had corrected that to Ashley, but it looks like I may not have got it to her in time. And the note was, added note from the chair, this year's event will likely come in under budget due to supply and demand of a lot of supplies and out of stock. And in fact, that's the opposite. This year's event will likely come in over budget. And that is because of the, well, it's just, you know, the difficulty in accessing the supplies, and everything is coming in at a higher cost this year. The hope is that it'll settle down, but right now, just coming out of the pandemic and everybody jumping on board and trying to run events, I think maybe that's sort of driving that supply and demand, I'm not sure. So the ask is, the recommendation was to bring forward to council an ask to support the budget for the amount of $3,200.
Great, did you want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
That the council provides the Town of Coalhurst Rugby Culture Society, I guess we're not society, committee, with $3,200 to support the Miners' Days activities.
any discussion? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask about a little bit of clarity on historical funding for the event and just kind of where we've been at, I guess, through the years and where we're sitting now, just to kind of get background on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I haven't been actively involved with the Miners' Days in the past. I've just been sort of the pancake flipper. But I know that, Deb, I don't know, Deb, if that's something you can speak to, having had your experience.
Thank you. So historically, it has received no funding from the town. And it's all been done through fundraising and donations, which has been a big point for me. And I've stated that many times, that I do think the town should be supporting more, which this year it is. So historically, there's been the use of the donation of the land and the supplies, which is huge. That's a big donation, as well as putting out all the supplies and things like that. As well as the Miners' Days Committee always applied for the insurance and things like that. But yeah, historically, all money was fundraised.
Thank you. So yeah, I saw you had up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And again, that was my question too, in terms of looking at the recommendation and the way it read and saying, looking at increasing the budget from $13,000 to $15,000 for future years. Just wanted to clarify that in the current budgets that we've had, which Councilor Florence has indicated, we don't have $10,000 to $13,000 in there necessarily for Miners' Days. We had, you know, in our current budget, we have there's $22,500 roughly for what's called Summer Games programming or whatever, which traditionally went towards Canada Day, Family Day, Fun Run, those types of things. You know, a little bit maybe for Miners' Days, but certainly not in the 10 to 13 to 15,000. We did have in this year's budget as well an extra 15,000 for a rec master plan potentially. So I guess just moving forward for future years, I guess just wanted clarification as to whether or not we need to, either be bumping that number up or specifically putting it aside differently than what's been the tradition of that.
And thank you for that, and that's actually the reason why I didn't include that recommendation. I thought we will take care of this budget item, this budget request this year. And then I think you're right that that generates a much larger conversation going forward about how the town supports the town's activities, right? That isn't something that we can just do a recommendation and a motion on, off the cuff, this evening.
Councilor Florence?
Sorry, are we done? Oh, sorry. Thank you. So I guess I just then, I have another question just about the Rec and Culture Committee, and the $50,000 budget given last year, and then the $15,000 from the previous committee that was meant to be used for minor state parking. I'm a little bit concerned, confused about this recommendation, with that. And so why is the $15,000 that's been set, that's been given, not being used for this?
Can I get clarity on the amount that was actually allocated from?
I'm sorry, roughly.
Yeah, my understanding was it was a $10,000, and that's what they have for their budget line item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was 13,000 and some dollars,
Okay,
is what it was.
and so then, and they have not yet received that money?
Yeah, the check hasn't been mailed.
Okay, so was it just recently sent to them? Because in our budget,
Last 10 days, probably.
okay, yeah, see, and that would make sense then, because at our budget meeting of July the 28th, they did not have the check and they thought that they were receiving $10,000. And so that's why you're seeing these budget numbers in front of you right now, based on the $10,000 and the cost above that would be required. And so you'll see the minor states budget before you of $13,180 with the $10,000 minus from that, which is what the balance. So I think that's some new information. And perhaps with that new information, I would say that we pull that I would like to pull my recommendation and my motion from the table. Because they wouldn't require that additional budget.
We'll just scrap that. Get rid of it. There we go, thank you.
If everybody is.
Yes, everyone's okay with that, unless anyone wants to make that motion again.
Yeah, if anybody's uncomfortable with that, please let me know. Yeah, and then of course there is further recommendations coming forward about future budgets, but I believe, as I said, that requires a much bigger discussion, right? And so we'll bring that forward from time.
That's great, thank you. Councilor Florence?
Thank you. I appreciate you mentioning that in the future discussion for the future budget. With that discussion, would it be possible to ask the committee to maybe provide some statements on the $50,000 and where we're at with that? Or is that something that maybe Edwin can do when we get to the financial statements and kind of talk about it, or kind of get a breakdown of how that's going?
Just for clarification, are you talking about like what we've actually budgeted for that committee?
Just in terms of so this is one of our budget, it is with a budget like that, and it's been about a year. It's totally new, and so we've never done any financial reporting on it or anything like that. So we've never seen where our $50,000 is going or something like that, right? So as it is like an extension of like it is a town committee, I wonder if that's something that's like an admin question or like a committee question, or how does that?
Yeah, and I think I would be as interested as you are, because I wasn't part of that committee at that time. It was previous council members.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if there was any kind of financial accounting that was done to administration. If there was, perhaps, I would hope that there was some form of accounting, and perhaps that can be shared with us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Honestly, we haven't really seen a real accounting. I mean, when the $50,000 was established, it was about June-ish of last year. Because at that time, after the COVID scenario, the rec coordinator position was not in place at the time. They established quickly at council today a rec and culture committee to kind of fill the void until the elections in October, just to get some of the events kind of going again. So they did, and there was sort of a budget that was proposed to the tune of $50,000, and a motion was made by council for various things. And it included, I can't even remember exactly what it all, I think even the needs assessment that was possibly done.
Yeah.
To, I think the party in the park that was done a year ago, to different things like that. And I think there was, an understanding at that time that they were to kind of provide sort of a financial update, but that has never come forward to us. In this current budget that we did here, as I say, there's no $50,000 in the 2022 budget. As I indicated, there's that $22,500 roughly in that area, and other little places here and there. That as far as where that 50,000 went from a year ago, some of the things were done, but to the tune of what dollars, I can't honestly say on that basis. We have to be asked to put that together.
Can I ask you, would it be the Rec and Culture Committee that have responsibility for those funds?
Yeah.
And so we have the past 2 council members that were on that committee. So how, do you know how the funds were dispersed? Was there a process or?
Well, I believe they were to ask for them as things, they put together, I think there was 3 or 4 budgets that they put together for various things that they were doing, if I recall. And so we did approve $50,000 in the budget towards those things. And I think as they sort of, I don't recall us cutting a check necessarily for $50,000 just outright. I think some things were maybe paid by the town. They submitted a bill or something to the town to say, here's what it is, and kind of go from there. But to what degree they all got accomplished, and to the tune of $50,000 more or less, I honestly could not say 100%.
So based on what you're saying, then you're not certain even if that $50,000 would have been all spent.
Not
So
100%.
in essence, what was happening was there were certain bills being submitted to the town and they were being paid.
Yeah.
And I suspect that given that it was a committee of the town, that they probably thought that there was some kind of internal accounting that was taking care of that. Because often council members feel like, there's a magic wand and somebody else just takes care of everything magically for you, right? So I guess my question, if I could, Madam Mayor, my question would be, would it be difficult for you to be able to pull up some of that information so that when we do have our discussions, there may be a budget allocation that's still sitting there from previous council that either has to be rescinded or has to be recognized as available or something to that effect. Would that be a possibility or?
Well, I'm just trying to think back because I would have been the chair last year. And I know that the way that we had done things was that while that money had been allocated, like council had allocated those funds, still everything that we did still came through council. There was essentially proposals that came forward to each of your council meetings. And then that's what was used. But I can look back and find the actual expense claims and things like that. And I'm sure that we can reconcile it based off of that. But I don't think that it was anywhere near that $50,000. I want to say it might have been maybe 20, but less than that. So, but yeah, we can definitely do that.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. And I think, as you say, a lot of it, I think, was run through the town's books on the basis of these were the events or the things that you wanted the $50,000 towards. There may have been a little bit of individual keeping here by accounts payable. I'm not sure exactly to try and account for some of that, but again, it may not have captured everything, or it may have been put into other accounts. So between what was done and maybe between, the past chairs indicated and whatever, we can figure out, exactly what was spent towards that, without too much trouble possibly.
Yeah, we
That'd be wonderful.
definitely do that. All right, any other discussion on any of the items there? Councilor Thorne?
Sorry, I just had a question about, we're doing all the committee things, right?
Yes.
Okay, so committee of the whole on August 2nd. This is just a question, because I just wasn't sure. But when we did the closed meeting, what was the reason for that? Was it because there was somebody presenting the idea?
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. The closed session was dealing with the area structure plan concept that was presented. So at this point, to protect the rights of, the individuals, it's kind of still a legal land labor sort of situation. So because it was the first draft that council had seen, first discussions. That's why it wasn't in a public. I mean, obviously, as part of the process moving forward, there will be a public town hall, public, type situation to present prior to council finalizing, accepting. But on that basis, it was the rights of the property owners and people involved in that sense.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm gonna ask for a motion to accept the committee meeting minutes as presented. Councilor Ackerman,
Yeah, I move that the committee minutes presented in this meeting are accepted.
any further discussion? If none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Great, thank you. Okay, so now we'll move to internal reports. And look at the financial report, the year to date. CAO, I'm gonna turn that over to you. If there's anything that you want to share, for last questions.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Not a whole bunch. Again, I went through it kind of fairly quickly. Everything still looks in good shape at this point. As indicated, it's kind of a year to date, so we're still working on getting a format where it's to the end of particular months. It's a little easier to look at in that sense instead of this is kind of whatever date it's printed, it's almost up to that date. But it's a new system that we put in with the previous director of corporate services and the new fellow has been working on. He did actually work with it in his previous place. So we're still trying to segregate that out a little bit. But so like I say, overall looks pretty good. Certainly can try to answer any questions on individual items you may have. Again, I will note that a lot of the big capital items and the internal transfers and grant sort of money's playing is generally more a year-end type thing that's done and closer to when projects are completed. And at this point in the year, a lot of the big projects are just underway and getting started and going. So.
Great, thank you. We'll open it up for questions.
It's looking good. I actually like this new system. It's looks really thorough.
Is it different?
It's a little, well, I guess less detailed maybe than perhaps
Yeah,
Yeah, so it just keeps it nice and clear.
a little more summarized, I guess. we
Right.
would call it, yeah.
Yeah.
If there's no questions, I'm going to request that somebody makes a motion to accept it.
I'll make that.
Great.
I'll move that the internal reports presented in this meeting are accepted.
Any discussion? There's none. All in favor? That's carried, thank you. All right, now we'll move on to the CAO report. And CAO, I'll turn that over to you. For anything that you have in there that you'd like to highlight.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Also as information, I guess, I do have the one recommendation in regards to the September regular meetings. Obviously, as indicated, due to attendance at the Alberta Municipalities Convention, with some, pre-convention stuff being on Tuesdays. Obviously, it'll be difficult. People will go, some will go on Monday, some going on Tuesday. So just looking at a recommendation to cancel the one meeting in September. It does still leave the option as indicated if there is something pressing, especially if it could be called on short notice or something to that effect the following week. And I guess the only other thing, is just due to upcoming personnel holidays. Obviously, there will not be a lot of further meetings in August, barring any emergency or special situations. One other note, I guess, not in my report, but in regards to each municipal committee meeting with the county, working back and forth trying to get a date. We did finally, as of today, September 13th, 9:30 to 11 is the date that works for the county at this point. So
Well, on which days, right?
September 13th, it's a Tuesday.
Okay.
So it is a community hall with council meeting night, MSDA day, that type of stuff.
That's MSTA, isn't it?
It's MSDA, yes.
It's like MSD on the first and the third Tuesday.
And that is the first Tuesday.
13th is the second.
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
Oh,
So, yeah.
you said
Yeah,
9 till 11?
I'd suggest 9:30 to 11.
Okay.
And it will be held at the Ron Coombs room. So, for
Yeah, they're coming to our town.
3 members of, somewhat back and forth where you want to go. And I figured, by the time we have 3 members plus myself, Sarah, Diane, they probably have at least 6. 12 in here's pretty tight on the tables. 12 in their basement room is tight kind of too. So I thought all the Ron Coombs are probably work better. So
All right,
that's where it'll be. So that's just an update on that. So.
great. Any questions? Go ahead, Councilor Ackermans.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to ask about the main constructed wetland. Do we have an ETA for the completion date of phase 2? Any rough idea?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, the tender that's sort of been let, the main part is to be done roughly by the end of October. That was kind of in the startup meeting and in the tender documents, October 31st was the tentative date, subject to weather, subject to, things like that. But obviously stuff like the planting of some of the plants and stuff is not scheduled to take place till next spring. But the main workable pond and paving of the walking path, that type of stuff is to be done this fall.
And then just another question, with the solar energy project, do we know when that's gonna be online?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wish I did, but unfortunately, it just seems to be, it's just backed up. I mean, the bidirectional meter has been installed, but looking at some of the emails, I mean, it's from days to months, before technically, it gets in a position to, commission it and flip that switch, so, but, so yeah, I can't, yeah, exactly.
Good, Councilor Coach.
Do we already have people assigned into the municipal committee?
Yes. Who's on that, I'm on that committee?
Introduce it. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect, thank you.
Any further questions? Go ahead, Councilor Florence.
I just have a few questions. So about the number 2, the multifamily development, can you tell a little bit more about that? Just as a multi-development property on a vacant property, that's.
Yeah, so it's, well, I can say a little bit, we're looking at, there's a vacant lot on 7th Street, it's fairly large, and it's vacant at the present time. And we just met with a developer that's looking at, he said it was about a 12 or 18 unit sort of thing, I think he was looking at, so.
How many stories?
Well, I think one, but we're talking depending on the space and the parking and different things, possibly we could get into maybe 2 might be better, but that's just preliminary at this point. He just had a bit of a proposal that he wanted to run by development planning sort of people as to how it fit into things. We talked about even perhaps whether or not accessing a small piece of town land, just to even it out, just the way the particular property sits there. There used to be an old sewer line that ran across it, they've since removed that, that's why it's been vacant for quite some time. But now we've relocated that one, we did the sewer line, it's more feasible that way, but, so it's parking and how it fits in, garbage and that kind of stuff, so. It is developed, it's doing a fair bit in town, so I can say that.
It's new in town, did you say?
No, it's doing a fair bit in town,
Okay.
That's really cool. That sounds awesome.
that's all I'm saying.
You know what, though? I mean, it's really smart, and obviously this developer knows what's needed in our community, and they do well for sure.
So that's what I'm saying.
Councilor Florence, did you have any other questions?
Yes, I just have a question about for the stormwater project. I know we're just a little bit into it, and stuff for planning, but if there is like a community group or something that wanted to like put in a gazebo or something like that, what would be the process for doing something like that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I guess at this point, probably would be to come to council, or committee, I guess, whatever you want to call it, of some sort. Obviously, as council's aware, we've approved the design for the wetland and the walking path down the little bridge to the island and planting. We haven't got into discussions as to how we will finalize the recreational area aspect around it, which is another, bigger discussion, I guess, in terms of, I know we'll see like the disc golf, I mean, it's talked about, we do have the 9 holes at Miners Park and a couple others spaced out in different places. There's a possibility that maybe, having 9 up there is a possibility, so you got 9 and 9, which is more your golf course type stuff. Would be a good way. Obviously, as you said, a gazebo. I know there's been talk about maybe another mini social area type place. Some picnic tables,
An off-leash dog park.
off-leash dog park.
Area as well. Let's not leave that one out.
No, and I mean, there's even that, I guess, memorial garden that's been talked about too, in terms of trees to garden to what to do with that. So So that's a discussion, I guess, of a bigger concept now that we've got the wetland, which is the infrastructure. Now it's how do we fix around it, you know, and then start planning, fundraising, or whatever the case is for that. But if somebody has, you know, wants to do something like that, I guess to come forward and say, hey, we'd be willing to donate X number of dollars or this people or whatever the case is, now's the time to, you know, start to come forward, I guess, for sure.
So now, come forward now with your
Well,
ideas.
I mean, prior to council really getting into planning
Okay.
a concept that they want for it, whether it's through rec and culture or through whatever committee it kind of goes through with the council, obviously, at the point. But, you know, like I say, at this point, there is no real plan. I mean, there was, caused a little bit of maybe stuff via Facebook, the original draft of the so-called area for there, which showed, you know, soccer fields and ball fields or whatever, but again, that was a concept only. It was never, you know, approved at council level that that's what it had to be. So, and there is lots of space out there to do all those things, from off-leash to recreation to social area to you name it. So,
Awesome, thank you. And then I just had one more question with just, it's not actually on here, but with AUMA, did we ever decide what or were we still able to talk about something with the Minister of Municipal Affairs?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We did submit, you know, the notice, I guess, that we would like to. I haven't heard that we've been accepted or not accepted, or that he's got time on his agenda, but we did submit the, you know, the intent.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so we did have a recommendation to cancel the September 20th meeting due to us being gone to the other municipalities. Would somebody like to make that motion? Go ahead.
I move that the council of the town of Colhurst hereby cancel the September 20th regular meeting.
Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And then we'll move on to the Director of Operations report. Is there anything in there, Sia, that you would like to highlight or anything that anyone has questions on? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess the first item that's not on here, but obviously over the weekend we had a little bit of bad luck. Originally thought we had 3 trucks stolen, turned out to be 2. We did locate one today, actually, but it's a little beat up, but not drastically, but it will take some work to get it back into shape. Actually, it was just slightly outside of town, not very far. The other one has not been returned yet or hasn't been located. There were, you know, we did have our security cameras in the shop that did, you know, there was a picture of a guy, I guess there were 4 guys apparently that were there. Ran the gate with the truck to get out, and took off with 2 of them. Fortunately, you know, we thought there was 3, but one truck was actually put out of the shop. One truck was hooked up to the float for Coaldale, which wouldn't have taken a whole lot of disconnecting to take that one too, but fortunately it was left behind. They did apparently even try to get a police officer's vehicle as well, but battery was dead and the bobcat was behind it, so it was a little more work to get it out. So we're working with insurance, et cetera, to see what we can do in terms of, you know, there's some damage on the fence, a little bit to the door, the shop, as well as, like say, one truck is back, it's located today. But will require there's some dents that light on the top that they had inside of the truck was, I guess, Lysol or whatever to kind of get rid of the fingerprints, so it kind of needs some detailing and that type of stuff, so it's things like that. So not, again, I guess they tried to pull the town's logos or whatever you want to call it, so, you know, write some paint and whatever on there as well. So, but apparently there's, you know, a fair bit of this going on. I understand in farms and different things around, it's been a lot of it too. So the RCMP seem to think that they have a decent idea of who it might be, but they weren't saying a whole lot more than that. And we did get some fingerprints off the one truck today, from what I understand. So, but how much that'll help, it's hard to say. So that's the big item, I guess. Other than that, I guess as indicated, the first 9 disc golf baskets are up at Miners Park, which is good. I understand a few people have been utilizing them, so we do have, I guess, approval to put other ones up in the high school, and Imperial Meadows, and I think the elementary school, I think is the other area. So probably later this fall they'll go up, but at this point the 9 are up at least. And than that, it's missing information, I think, it's just like other questions. Oh, the spray park, I guess. And, we had our first hoop incident today, so we had to shut it down.
That's pretty good though, that was quite a long time for the first one,
Actually, yeah, so
like.
I expected that much sooner than this, but, we've had lots of other little things from, like, say, people throwing gravel, people with food, people, throwing actually little pieces of toilet paper and wet toilet paper on them and stuff like that, so. And some inside the change rooms, different things, so there's been little incidents, but as far as physically shutting it down, so now it's kind of shut down for like 20 hours or something, Kevin was saying, to disinfect and dechlorinate or whatever. So it's just like, well, it's like a swimming pool basically, so, when you poop in the swimming pool, you have to shut it down until it's reprocessed, because this is recirculating it, so it's a swimming pool. And I think it was indicated at the last meeting here that the resurfacing, we did approve that to go ahead, so that will happen at the end of the season, so.
Is there a notice that we put on there when something like this happens?
It was posted on Facebook and Twitter.
What about the actual site though?
That it'll reopen on this time, on this date,
Yeah, I don't think we put anything up there. We just did the Facebook, Twitter really quickly.
and disinfected at this point?
Yeah.
We might need to pick up a little sign that we got our first one. We won't be online. Just a little something that goes on the fence that says, it'll be reopened once disinfecting is completed at this time. So the parents can just pick up the nuance to that says, oh, okay.
So
What's the situation?
Where's the appropriate clothing?
That's right.
Any further questions? If there's none, can somebody make a motion to accept the CAO report? Councilor Lawrence,
I hope that the CAO report is hereby accepted as presented.
any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. All right, so we're gonna go to our council member reports and questions. I'm gonna start with Councilor Lawrence today.
Yeah. So since last council meeting, there has not been a lot of meetings. Actually, most of them are kind of off for the summer. I've attended the Barons, Milford, and Coaldale Parade, and been able to promote our parade and our town days and let everybody know to come out. And so it's been a really great summer. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks. Councilor Ackermans.
Thank you. I had the South Pro executive meeting on July 25th. I guess from that front of business as usual, some of their funding money's coming in. They also are using the same project manager for MCCAC to do their solar project for the solar chargers. So it's going to be kind of the same people working on that one. And then besides that, I was at the Coaldale Parade on the weekend with Councilor Lawrence and Mayor Martina, and that was a lot of fun. Although we should make a note that next year we're going to need quite a bit more candy for that one. We were very sparingly passing it out, and we ran out probably halfway through. So there was quite a few kids there.
Oh my goodness, that was double what normally, I was here when they were loading the truck out.
Yeah.
That was double what was normally sent out to that parade.
Yeah, I would almost say like 2 to 3 times what we had there.
But you had 2 vehicles, right?
No, I didn't have any.
I think there's a lot more, sorry. I think there's a lot more participants at the parade. Like I think like half of Southern Alberta was there, post 2-year hiatus. But yeah, no, we've gained a lot more.
And then I guess I just got a couple questions. Just curious with the Sundance development, when will we be getting a next update on that, or what is the next step for that one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have another conference call tomorrow, actually, in terms of that. And we're still working with lawyers and engineers in terms of the legalities of how to present and how the other side wants to come forward with a plan. I guess at one point, they came forward with a plan and said, here's a possibility. We're prepared to put out X number of dollars, which our counter to that was such that we don't feel that that's enough to do what you're proposing. So can't we get a better figure as to what that number is? Because otherwise, if we accept that money, then the town's going to be on hook for the remainder. And depending on what that might be, it might be more than what we want. So the more recent email that, like I say, if we need tomorrow, will focus on the sense that it sounds as if they may be able to somehow kind of tender to get a more concrete price. And then from there, I'm not sure if the other side will be prepared to put more money in, but at least they will have a better number as to, okay, if you're only gonna put in this, are we prepared to put in any, or do we go to court to that level further, I guess is kind of what it's at.
And then just one further question, I was just curious if we had any traction on usage for the town app, because I believe we're still paying for that one, and I don't know if we have usage statistics or anything.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have those in front of me. You can get those. I have talked to SMB Apps again and have them scheduled for a September meeting to come present to us. It was just not available. August there's not a lot of options in August. And so September is when he's coming to do his pitch as to what he can do in terms of website, in terms of the app, et cetera. So.
Thank you.
All right, Councilor Roundtree.
Yeah, so since our last council meeting on July 12th, I have attended a horse executive and agriculture meeting. The one meeting I was on holidays for the second one. We also had an MSDA meeting on the 19th of July. Yeah, and I was hoping to go to the McGrath parade, but unfortunately, all the help that I had lined up ended up canceling. So I attended the McGrath parade, but not driving through it. So we did see like the other towns going through there, like I think some of them have the golf cart or something. Yeah, so it would have been nice to be there, I guess. So, that's what I heard.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Caldwell.
Thank you. Since our last council meeting, I have attended the agriculture meeting. We've had two of them getting ready for Wednesdays. I've also attended MSDA. So we have the minutes of the meeting of the 19th before us now, but there's a meeting on the 2nd, and those will be coming before us, I guess, at our next council meeting. So I won't spend too much time talking about those then. We'll discuss them at that time. Yeah, as well as going to the Noble Parade. Those are always my favorite things to do. I wish I could have joined you guys in Gold Hills. I know it'd be a lot of fun there. So, and that was everything. Thanks.
All right, and then for mine, I had Strip Art. We had our first meeting, I guess, for the new year the other day, last week. So I had that, and I had an executive meeting too, I believe. I think I can't remember exactly the date for that one, but otherwise, just going to the Coaldale Parade, a lot of fun. I totally agree. There was a ton of people there, and yeah, I think that I had Luca with me, and he kept being like, "Mom, I think that there's like 20,000 people here," and then we go by, and he's like, "I'm pretty sure there was 4,000 right there." And so he was doing that the whole time, and so we had a lot of fun out there. And last time I know at our committee, we were talking about trying to find parade float stuff. I've come to learn that the pandemic has also wiped those out. I can't find them anywhere, but do not fret. I'm going to design something, and it's going to be really great for the Move Up Days parade. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but you guys are going to love it. So I'll let you know.
Yeah, and I apologize. Now I'm very sorry that I laughed at your comment when you said I will be sourcing those pom-poms. I laughed, and now that I've seen how difficult it is to find anything, I get it.
Man, yeah, everything this year is just really hard to find. So we're gonna do something different. It's gonna be really cool, and you're gonna love it.
You're not sure what it is yet.
I don't know yet. I'm gonna design something, and we will get it together. So that's all I have to say about it. But yeah, so that's all I have.
I love your creativity.
We can always pull something together. It'll work. All right. So now we'll move on to correspondence here. And I'm just going to ask if anyone has any questions on here, and if not, to get someone to make a motion to acknowledge the correspondence.
I have a question, on the fire restriction policy, that what is our general approach to it, I guess, in terms of when the county puts on a fire ban? Like, it's like, in this one, it says fire restriction in effect, but you still have it kind of in control environment, which is most of the course anyway, so.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So basically, it's at the call of the fire chief, in the past, and generally, you know, fire restriction and fire ban, or, you know, there's a difference. The restriction is indicated as, you know, just maybe your fire permits and that type of stuff are kind of open fires, but fire pits and that type of stuff, generally, you're still, you know, barbecues, that type of stuff. And generally, in the past, even though it's been, you know, the county has put this in various other places, they haven't really put a restriction or anything real fast in Coalhurst, because most are the approved fire pits, and provided they're dealt with appropriately, that flames aren't going 10 feet in the air and there's no screen on and that type of stuff, they haven't generally put it in effect too fast. So, but again, it's totally at the call of the fire chief or the deputy chief, depending on if the fire chief's unavailable. And the fire chief was in the office the other day, we were talking about this and talking about, you know, the dry and et cetera, and he certainly was not indicating any intent at this point to do anything at that point. So, could change with, you know, 36, 34, 31, 31, 31, whatever you want to call it, but yeah, so.
And as far as enforcement, if there is somebody that's caught doing that, the fire chief issue a ticket at that point, or something?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, not necessarily, because I mean, we don't really want them approaching if it's that kind of situation, that it's an overhand type fire. It's almost an RCMP matter that the fire department would attend in terms of putting out the flame, but generally not issuing a ticket. It's more being into an RCMP matter. So similar to a noise commitment at 2 in the morning or something, it's RCMP matter. So,
Thank you for that information.
If I could as well, please, what is it, item D, in correspondence, Alberta Transportation. Did we have anything that we needed to meet with Alberta Transportation about? I see that the deadline is the 12th. If there was anything, I'm just gonna respectfully ask you about it, if you think of anything that.
thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, at this point, nothing that I'm aware of, and nothing that council has necessarily brought up. I mean, you know, our intersection obviously is not a thing anymore. I mean, they helped us with the 223 Highway 25. So I'm not aware of anything else that's come up in the past year, I guess, to warrant a meeting with them, but if council has some different ideas, I guess there's the opportunities.
You know, sometimes we do get together just to share success stories, just to sort of do that relationship building, but it sounds as though they're going to be inundated this year. I'm not sure that that's really a good time to do that this year, hey?
Yeah, I mean, generally they like it to be, you know, a genuine concern or something like that, not, I mean, some years, because I mean, they only have like the 15-minute intervals and generally for a day or whatever if they're there, so if there are funding or different problems that you're having, I guess that's, we kind of like to prioritize, but.
Yeah.
So even if you submitted a request without a real ask, probably would not get accepted anyway.
Who is this minister? Is the transportation minister?
It was, I can't remember the first name, Minister Brenda,
Oh,
Yeah.
I believe. Anything else that I would like to pull out and chat about? I guess I did have one thing about the Ukrainian Canadian Heritage Day that has been listed in here. And again, I think it's one of these things of like, is this something that we would like to go, we would like to recognize this? I noticed that there's an indication that we could even put up a flag or do something like that. Maybe even in a way, like I know that we did have a couple of Ukrainian citizens join us in Coalhurst this past year. But maybe it's even something, you know, just putting out like a little bit of statement on social media too, and just recognizing the date. It doesn't have to be anything very big, but just something just to recognize that. What is your thoughts on
I
that?
agree, I think that would be a really wonderful idea.
Yeah, if we could do that, that would be great.
So what do you think would be appropriate? I mean, it is on the 24th, and I know that, when is our administration going on holidays?
Be with them, but
But
Maybe
there is,
late during that time?
there is the Alberta Ukrainian Canadian Heritage Day on September 7th as well. They noted it here, there's those 2 days.
Oh, yes.
So like, we could always look at like the 7th too, right? And just kind of recognize it as that day.
You know, and we could just come up with a really strong statement about Ukrainian Independence Day for social media. I mean, that can be done and just set up on social media on that day, prepped and ready to go.
Yeah.
Right, and then on the 7th, on Heritage Day, maybe we could look at a flag, or maybe we could look at, something that's a little bit more.
I think that like we're just about done our first year kind of seeing the cycle about what kind of comes. And then I think that like, for like the next year, just deciding, like what are these things that we participate in or do. But I think that considering that we've had some people come and live with us in Culver's, it would be really nice to do this for that.
I think it'd be important.
Yeah. So I guess that from that, I guess we're kind of saying like a social media statement for the 24th, just recognizing the day, as well as then, if possible, if we could do a flag, that would be nice to be able to do that for the 7th of course as well.
And yeah, as it says, either flag or banner, so I mean, if it's difficult to find a flag, just, support a banner.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I guess as far as a social media statement,
Yeah.
You want to politically say the right thing correctly, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just wondering what you would want to say or how we want to say on that.
Do you want me to draft something
If you,
that I could like kind of have coming from council and then like as representative, and then we can edit it all together and see so that it's
yeah, I'm just suggesting that, that you want to be careful with
Yeah.
what you do say kind of thing. I
Yeah.
think. So, and I'm not suggesting that I can't or whatever, but this should be probably a little bit of something done.
Yeah, I can draft something, then I can get it sent out to you guys and we can take a look at that and then we can get it, because I know since you guys will be on, we can get that already like in the queue, we can have it just ready to post myself.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, if it's here before Friday, and you're still here Friday, you can have it so it comes on that day. I think.
We can do it, don't worry. And I actually have access to it.
I can
so
put it
can
on,
do
but
that too.
I've never set it up to.
Yeah, it's easy, we can do it.
Advance.
Don't worry. Okay, so I'll get something up. Okay. All right, would someone like to make a motion?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I move that the correspondence presented in this meeting is hereby acknowledged and filed.
Any further discussion? No, question, all in favor? That's great, thank you. All right, moving on to other business here. So we've got the first one for Lethbridge County Development Permit, 2022136. So yeah, how to.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So again, another permit for home occupation. This one, I did get sort of worked with Sarah to provide a map so you get a concept of where it is. So this one is off of Highway 25. So basically you'll not be accessing Major Road 223 or 92 or anything to that effect. So really not a lot of potential impact to the town, I don't feel from that, other than, I guess, as indicated in discussions with our development officer and our town planner. Again, the fact is there's minimal information in the development application and the information submitted for consideration. I outlined a little bit of it from parking, outdoor storage, service truck signage, that type of stuff. And again, are they just sort of putting these various commercial type activities all over, or should it be more concentrated in certain areas? But as I said, as opposed to the previous two, which had some impact on the road and moved closer to town, then this one is a little further removed, and therefore it's not as significant, I don't feel it being insurance.
Questions?
What is a CYD inspection facility?
Where's this one?
The proposed business services.
So we'll be able to do vehicle inspections. Vehicle inspections, right?
Yeah, I presume, but I don't know what CYD stands for. What would it be? I just,
GYD.
I looked it up as, I misspelled it or something.
Yeah, I think it's more the, I don't think that's the right word, it's like no, not CPEC,
Isn't it AMBIC?
AMVIC, yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
It's the Alberta inspection.
Like municipal vehicles.
Is it, or assuming that?
Yeah, we are.
You guys are making this up.
No, that is the AMVIC, I mean, 'cause that's similar to even,
I'm a dead mechanic, I know what that is. So
Yeah.
I don't know CYD and stuff.
the spelling isn't really good on it, but, and as I say, just sort of, somewhat limited information provided. And again, that's sort of, we've seen that with 2 or 3 of the last permits that have come forward, so again, maybe something in the intermunicipal meeting that will be a discussion point to say, because again, in the intermunicipal development plan, it does talk about, prior to them approving and doing whatever, they're supposed to be contacting maybe us ahead of time prior to getting an approval, and that's kind of not being done now, so we'll go to the process.
I think that's kind of the challenge, like I'm in support of this business,
Yeah.
but I'm really being challenged by their process now. And I'm really being challenged by the fact that they're just accepting everything as a home occupation, right? It's just, I don't understand what the process is behind that.
Yeah,
That's a new thing, that seems to be a new thing for the county.
yeah, so like I say, it is a concern, I think, that in that intermunicipal meeting will come up a little bit in that discussion possibly, so.
And I just a comment as well. I'm not sure if any of you have been coming home on a Friday along 223, where the garden market is. The market garden shop is there.
Yep.
And there's been like a line of cars stopped on it. Well, that's the first time I've ever seen that, mind you. And there's 2 cars trying to turn in to go there, and I thought, this is what this could look like as more businesses grow up as well, right? And it could become a little bit of a frustration for some of our, or a bit of a hazard on some of the poor sightline areas, right? But I don't know if anybody's seen that before on that road.
Councilor Barnes?
do you want me to make that motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sorry. As I said, I was like, no. I move that the council of the town of Colbert hereby authorize the officer, Helga, to submit a letter to Elbridge County indicating that the town has no concerns with development permit number 2022-136, home occupation 2, a mechanic at the location of southeast 22-9-22, oh my goodness, W4M, 93042 Highway 25, as presented in July 25th application.
Great. Any further discussion? None, no question, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. Okay, the next item that we have here is the Alberta Culture Status of Women, regarding the Alberta Day. So yeah, I'll turn that over to you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. So again, it just, as you can see, came here on August 3rd, they want an application by August 12th, and kind of outlining a fairly almost big event from the look inside as to what they want to do. So, but there is a little bit of funding, obviously for 10,000 people, up to $5,000. But again, looking at, the expression of interest guidelines, I'm not sure what kind of event you could do that's going to fit all those criteria to necessarily fit it, but as you see, September 1st this year was proclaimed as Alberta Day for the Tuesday. So.
It sounds as though they sent a very, very clear format that we should follow in order to hopefully qualify for the $5,000 funding. And it looks as though the agenda that's been laid out in the format is going to be far more costly than that dollar value. Yeah, you seem like this suggested site layout and like the time frame and everything associated with it.
Councilor Florence?
I think it's something that they're suggesting some funding for Alberta Day, but I think that, given everything that's going on and given, this would go to a rec committee and a rec committee, I would assume we'll be able to do that understandably by the 12th. I think similar to the other thing though, like we could just do, like a post, because like it's just way too short to conjure anything up. But as it is a provincial day, I would support doing, a posting or something to celebrate this new day.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, you see the extra details, the checklists and the schedule and timeframes and, yeah, I support that as well. I think that I love the idea that we're having an Alberta Day. But I do think the timeline to apply the application seems quite lengthy, and what they're asking us in order to achieve that seems quite a big event, which is lovely. But yeah, within this time frame to have it accomplished is.
And I think just to have our capacity, there's just no way at this point. It does look nice if there's some funding there. It would be nice if it was a little more flexible, but that's my thought. I mean, anyone thinks contrary?
Right, why?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're right, the resources is challenging, but I'm, based on, I think what we heard about candidates, we asked if there's something that we want to take this up, right, so. And again, we don't have the timeline.
Yeah.
Right, so. Yeah, it's just if other municipalities in the region are doing it, we're not, then it just looks bad on us, I guess, right, so that's all I'm trying to be considerate of, so.
I think it's like, and I think that now that we know that like this is an annual thing, and as we talked about the potential development of, getting potentially more staff or individuals, maybe this is something again that we look at our calendars for the next years. But and I like your suggestion of just even recognizing the day. Unfortunately, I think that's just where we're at with capacity right now. Especially because we'll have miners days the week before. I think it's the week before, so.
I think, yeah, and I think part of the challenge is that we don't know when we'll be notified.
Yeah.
Whether we receive the funding, and so we'll have to be well within our plans and everything is booked. Far before we know.
It's very short notice for this one, so like.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so I'm hearing that maybe, hopefully they have this next year. It's more funding then. That'll determine, okay. Move on now to, the email here from Staff Sergeant Mike Newman. About some stuff.
Explain what that means.
Yeah. Just to go.
Email.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So in a nutshell, what it means is if you wanted to meet at AUA with the commanding officer of K Division, this is the opportunity to do that. He did indicate again, he received very short notice, and so he said, very short notice for you too, but he said, I told him, I said, on Tuesday, that'd be the earliest that I would have an opportunity to see if there is a need or a want. And from there he said, well, short notice, we give you short notice, we'll have to see how it fits, but that's really what it's about.
Very interesting. This is the first time I think we've been asked, if you're not attending, they're asking that we provide clarification on why we're not going to attend. I think that's really interesting that they're doing that.
He did also say that, if, similar to before, he always said, well, give me a September date and I'll come and meet with you again and talk to you about, whatever you want as well.
So are we, as we are past the date, we could still, I guess.
He still said, if you send me something, I'll send it and see what they say, because they gave me short notice too, so.
Is there anything that anyone would like to report for this?
It's the larger commanding officer, because I know that even with Staff Sergeant Newman, we've had a chance to talk about some of our local issues, it might be a good opportunity, but I guess just with those conversations with staff sergeant, maybe I wonder if it would be necessary to do that in Edmonton, or I mean, sorry, in Calgary. That don't want to miss an opportunity to potentially grab someone's ear, but at the same time, yeah.
You know, I think that you're right. I think we don't want to miss an opportunity to talk to them, but the deadline is passed. But also, he said that he might be able to extend it. But what makes me a little uncomfortable is sending them a reasoning why. Because we don't want to say to them because everything's okay, right? Because it's not. And I wonder maybe if we couldn't just say, could we please meet with you here? After AUMA, are you able to come down and have a conversation? Someone from Division K, they've offered that, and you just said they threw that offer up again?
Well, he said he would, he said he would give me a date in September, he said I should come and meet with you guys again and do whatever. He didn't necessarily say the commanding officer would, but they have in the past too.
They haven't
sometimes.
announced, yeah,
And sometimes it's easier than there, because again, it's limited time, where if they come here,
yeah.
they spend an hour or whatever the case is too, right, so. As opposed to 15 minutes or whatever you get. Now generally, they refer it, because even the last time we met in Commander, they still referred it back to Staff Sergeant Henry of the day, and I know the mayor and myself went and met with Staff Sergeant Henry to discuss the things that we discussed with the Commander of K Division, so.
So it might be worth talking with, if I, it might be worth talking with, Staff Sergeant Newman, right? In September, and then maybe we pull in someone from Division K. If we're still seeing a huge concern with policing in our community, or perception of people not feeling safe in our community.
I guess, didn't we, hadn't we discussed at some point with them doing some kind of open house?
Yes.
And I know we don't have like any change to our concerns perhaps than we'd already discussed. I think we have seen an improvement in the local presence or received, and
I
maybe.
feel like we have.
Yeah, I would like to see an open house be held, because then we can hear directly from the residents as to what their concerns are before we approach Division K. For people who have concerns, like they would come to that event, I would suspect.
That makes sense. Yeah, and I know that when we talked about one in the spring and we just didn't have a lot to discuss, and so we said we would have one in the fall, like a big town hall meeting in the fall. And so maybe if we meet with the Staff Sergeant in September and just discuss that this is what we're planning to do, and could he be a part of that with us? And just to hear from our residents, because I feel like, and I don't know other council members, but I feel like from what I'm hearing, it sounds as though it is a little bit better, that they're seeing more frequent patrols, but, but it would be nice to have a town hall for residents to be able to speak about that.
Council Florence, I saw your hand was up, and then we'll go to Council Harkins.
Yeah, thank you. I was just gonna say, with meeting with Staff Sergeant, he had indicated too that we would like meet yearly and talk about the apps, like the policing priorities, annual policing priorities. And as we said, like we didn't get a chance to do that in the spring, so definitely looking forward for an opportunity to do that, and hopefully like in an open house format, so residents can come and be a part of that. So I think that's a great idea.
Council Harkins.
Thank you. I like the idea of the town hall. I think getting everyone together and kind of being able to voice your concerns, giving the residents a voice, I think is going to be a huge thing. I am kind of curious if there'd be year-over-year stats to see what crime in town has done in the last year. Because I know on Facebook it doesn't seem like it's being reported as much, but I don't know how much of that filters into the actual RCMP. So if we could have some numbers on that with a possible town hall and just say, hey, this is kind of the baseline where we're at now. I mean, it's probably going to go up because people might be reporting more, but at least we have a baseline to move forward from.
And that would be a good conversation to have with Staff Sergeant, right, that, to look at those stats.
All right, so what I'm hearing is we're going to decline the initial invitation for at Alberta municipalities and try to schedule something for the fall for an open house here, and then see what we need to do from there, potentially have a meeting. Does that sound about right to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. The next item that we have here is the ATCO stuff. about hosting, I think. So yeah, we'll turn it over to you. I'm pretty sure that's what it was about.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. So a couple things in this one, I guess, basically, he's indicating that apparently he takes out a few councils, I guess, on a yearly basis, but which this year he was wondering if we'd be interested while we were at AUMA. They do have their music hospitality suite, whatever that we have going to as well. I wasn't aware that they actually did this, and we've never had this invitation before. Usually our engineers have taken us out. I haven't heard from them yet in terms of that. But these articles also asking for that. And secondly, he's looking at doing a presentation on in November on decarbonizing natural gas grid and that type of stuff. So we can definitely line them up for November meeting. That's easy enough. So.
Sounds good.
It's just a matter of, what night, and, generally usually the Wednesday is the hospitality heavier nights. So usually done with the engineers on Thursday. Or maybe, the Tuesday, that could put it there too, might be an option too.
I'll be there on Tuesday because I'm attending that pre-session. Otherwise, Wednesday's fine too.
So even pre-people will probably be coming up on Tuesday, or non-pre-people will be coming up on Tuesday.
That's not so bad, be there like 6 or 7.
Like I say, I haven't heard from the engineers yet, so maybe the invitation isn't there.
Better be.
It will.
Pretty sure.
I had fun with them last time.
Yeah.
They spent a lot of time in our town, so it's not here either.
So if you're interested, I can see what he's got and see if Tuesday or.
I think we say yes to them.
Yeah.
Whatever day they have available, and then when the engineers show up, then they can be the other one. Say, sorry, first come, first serve.
Okay, awesome. All right. Okay, I know that I said that we're gonna do the cat one now, but since Les already had it on the agenda for E, this is okay. We're gonna just do the government and Alberta Justice Consultant. So there's a webinar series for this. So yeah, I'm just gonna turn this over to you, this part here.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. So again, you saw earlier under Business Arising that they've now established a website province to kind of keep you up to date as well as on the future of provincial policing. Now as well, it looks like there's a setup here to talk about a little bit further, sort of through hosted somewhat by Alberta municipalities, but also as indicated here, featuring speakers that are lawyers and that type of stuff in terms of the existing RCMP contracts, policing models, and how the approach 100 years ago, as well as moving into now. So again, it's all the updates as to what's happening and where this is going. So it looks like a series at this point. You're saying Monday, August 22nd, but I would assume by saying a series, there's going to be more of these moving forward. And it's a matter of how up to date we want to be or whatever in terms of that. So. And that's really all I know at this point. So.
All right, would anyone like to attend that?
I just have a question. Is this a lot different than the one, like it's the same, the future of like Alberta policing, is this the same one that we went to in the spring, but you said it's a series, so there's like further information, or would it just be kind of redundant?
Well, I'm just thinking the way it says a webinar series, that there will be more than just this August 22nd date.
Okay.
And it may be similar to the one that was in the spring, because obviously it's a pretty hot topic now as to provincial police, RCMP, and where you're going with it. I heard the Minister of Justice obviously talking about it and sort of saying they haven't made decisions, but people are saying there's not enough consultation. Obviously, the resounding sort of thing through AUMA or other municipalities, whatever, and we're even on that list of saying that, we're in support of RCMP staying as RCMP. But, apparently there is a lot of discussions and a lot of research being done in terms of, is that the best way to go, or are you better to go with the provincial force?
I think that's the push that's coming from the Alberta government.
Yeah.
Even in the preamble, they say what we hear from Alberta is that everybody wants more information. And what Alberta is saying to them is we actually don't want to go in this direction. And it's a huge, huge percentage of people that are speaking to that.
I just want to say though, I think, like, we signed that letter and I didn't the interview for the news.
Yeah.
And they're asking us why, for me anyway, why we didn't support this, because Alberta government didn't clearly give us any information at all really as to what the proposal was. It was just based on that Schwarzkopf Cooper study, and I mean, and looking at this website, it does provide a lot more information than we've had before. This is more information than we've ever had, right? So, I honestly don't, like, I think maybe we might need to change our stance potentially if we get more information, right? So,
I agree with you, I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that of course, this conversation, this continued conversation is coming from the balance. But yeah, I mean, they're offering a lot of information here. And it's not a bad idea to take in the information. But but we have to also keep in mind that there are some quite huge costs that are associated with this changeover, right?
oh, absolutely. I think what the government's approach is we'll figure that out, right? And that's backwards to how we want to see it, because
We want to see what we're going to be paying.
absolutely. And they keep saying we're not gonna be paying, but we're like, really? How are we gonna, someone's gonna be paying somewhere, right? And you still haven't outlined where that money's coming from, and the transition costs, right? So, anyway, so yes, there's still some unknowns, but I think we should be part of the conversation. Because there could be, there could still be benefits to us.
Council, Laura?
For the new system, whatever it is.
I was just gonna say, as this is a hot topic, I would love to attend this. I attended some of the previous ones and find it really interesting, and as it is kind of an issue in our community, and as we talk about, some of the stuff, I think that as many of us should go as possible, really, especially because it's an webinar, it's easy.
You're right, and I feel like it almost, I thought you were gonna say inevitable, because that was one of the things.
I just made up a word.
And in my brain, it was like, yes, it feels as though it is going to be inevitable. So having this information, and what I do appreciate about this is they're opening up as a Q&A. So they are actually asking people to get engaged and ask questions, and that seems a little more open than what's been done in the past. It's just sort of like a funding of information, right?
Absolutely. It is a new approach. that we
Yeah.
haven't seen yet.
Yeah, so, it is important, I think, that we do take part in this.
And I would like to take a part in that as well.
So would you do?
Yeah, I like to as well.
I'll make a motion that all of council, are authorized to attend the future of Alberta Policing webinar series on August 22nd, 2022. Just for clarification, will you get us registered for that?
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. Discussion, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. Okay, we're gonna go to the CAT discussion now. So Councilor Florence, you had requested this be added to the agenda?
Thank you. I think that, thank you for letting me speak to this. It's definitely a topic that, as it's kind of a hot topic, not something that I'm thrilled about speaking to, but I think that we need to have a little bit of conversation about cat problem in Culvers. As we know, there's been some extensive work recently done for the creation of the cat policy, and I think that's really great. It speaks to some of the issues about responsible cat ownership, and stuff like that. And so I believe that we should refer it to the policy bylaw for some further tweaking. As well, I think we should have a conversation about registering cats. I believe this could be part of the solution to get on top of the problem in Culvers. From previous conversations and from my research, I know it's quite lengthy and maybe a little bit costly. However, I do believe that we have a responsibility to do something about it. And I just wanted to have a discussion tonight about it. As I'm sure, we've all seen some comments and some stuff coming up, and I think it's something we need to get on top of.
So just a question then, so you're proposing that we refer this to policy bylaw to kind of get started, is that your suggested first steps, or are you looking for feedback like tonight?
I think a little bit of both. I think we should get a little bit of feedback to get council's general direction on it, and then I think we should refer it to policy bylaw. But as far as registering, that's something that we've never done before. Like, it's a creation of like a new program. But I think it's something that if we get started on a conversation, and, you know, by the time CPO comes in hopefully a month or so, that we have a good idea of like, do we want to register, or is it too much, or, you know, if something like that, or maybe the policy bylaw can look into some like scenarios or things like that. And then, you know, and maybe talk about like a campaign or something like that. Like, I don't think this will solve it, but I do think it might be part of it. And sorry, if I can keep going for a second. I'm just rambling now. But I think that will help both like the cat owners to be able to locate missing cats, but also, you know, when we talk about our community standards and stuff like that, I think it really is a community standard to not be bothered, you know, if you have allergies or other pets by cats in your yard. And so I would like to see a system where, you know, we can do a big campaign and do some awareness, but then ultimately, you know, if it's a repeat thing, looking at some penalties for individuals who are continuing to let their cats roam. And if they're feral cats, then, you know, seeing that and finding a way to deal with that as well. Maybe bringing in a spaying or neutering program. Like I don't think there's any one answer, but again, I just think we need to do something about it.
Councillor Poultry. Go ahead, yeah, you're up.
I'm just wondering, I guess you kind of outlined the issues as far as, and so could you state them clearly then what the issues are with cats in corners?
So I believe that there is an issue with cats on the loose. I'm not 100% sure if it's cats that are owned or cats that aren't owned. I'm guessing by the amount of posts I've seen that some of them are owned. And so I think that's an issue. I just speaking like for myself in my neighborhood, like every day I pick up cat poop off of my lawn. And that's a big deal, like that's not fun. But I know that there's people that, you know, have allergies, or, you know, they have service dogs that are going crazy inside and things like that. You know, as well, you know, for the people, if their pet has gone missing and been picked up, then we know who to contact, right? And they were able to safely relocate their animal. Things like that. I know that there's been some talk of, let's say it's not catios, and I think that's part of a larger discussion as well, because there has to be a few parameters around that too, right? And so I think that there's a few things coming out.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that, sorry, to keep going again, I think that people are getting frustrated about it. People on both sides of everything, super frustrated. And as it stands, we do have policy in place. And our policy right now states that, like, whether or not there's a shelter open or not, or able to take the cats, that the town is to take the cats. And so I'm concerned about our ability or the tools in our toolbox to be able to do something about this, and that's why I want to do something like registering. Maybe it's not the answer, but it's a place to start.
That's great. Thank you for bringing that forward. I'd say for myself, like I have seen what you've been talking about. I don't know much about this in other communities and what that looks like, but or why we don't register. But I think that it's something that we should definitely look into. I would agree with you that there is frustration happening, and we should consider what we can do to make it better. And so I don't have the answer. I don't know, but I think that maybe that goes like to policy bylaw and kind of find some different things of what that could be or what that could look like. That would be great from my perspective.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to review it. It might be a good idea to look at the dog one and say like, compare it, I guess. Right? So could it be similar to that?
So yeah, can I ask you, like, why do we not register cats but we register dogs? Like, what is the reason behind that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, it's one of those individual municipal decisions, and each municipality has some do the register license and some just totally stay away from it. Some provide cat traps, some don't even do that, even if they do the register or the license and whatever. So it's basically it's the preference of each individual municipality, and it's a hot topic. I mean, even when we, previous council and previous policy bylaw, brought up this particular bylaw that we had in place, it again was discussed fairly extensively at the full council level as well, as to do we, don't we, and how far do we go with this? Obviously, the one we have in place, as Councillor Florence has indicated, does not require you to license, but it does have the not to run at large is one of the things that's in there. However, again, if it's caught, it is, other than posting a picture, someone, not without that tag on or something, it's difficult to determine whose cat it is. And in some cases, some cat owners, even with tags on, I mean, as Councilor Moore, I have around my house too, in the city, and a cat there, it's got a tag on it, it's got whatever, it's somebody's cat, but it's always in my front lawn or your garden too, so. Some just feel that they should be out and roaming a little bit, and there's the argument that, if they're out a bit, they are helping with the rodents, like mice and the different things like that too,
Just like killing birds.
and killing birds, so there's arguments all the way around.
Right,
so-
there's benefit as well as there's challenges, right?
So yeah, there's no right or wrong answer. Some, like say, some places do the licensing and heavily enforce it as much as you can, and some just totally stay away from cats, period. So.
The way I look at it is, if you, like, we just got a cat, and if we did a licensing program, like, our cat is always indoors. And, the only reason we license it is because if it runs away, we won't find it, right? So it would be a service to us, if in terms of a lost cat kind of service.
And the city of Lethbridge, you can actually upload a picture of your cat, or your dog for that matter, but a picture of your pet to attach to the license. And so when it flags, the picture comes up, and so if they catch the cat, they'll know, say, oh, okay, this belongs to these people, right? It's attached to this license. So it definitely is a community service.
And the way I look at it is that if we're serving the community in that way, is that require additional resources? I know our dog, one, it takes time from the police officer, bylaw person to do that work, right? And then there's the cat aspect, adding, an extra 5 hours a month or something, we don't know, I guess, but if you look at the dog portion of it, is that gonna impact, what priorities I guess you're placing on it? And then if we're not placing hours to that, isn't it gonna change anything, I guess, right? So, it's a discussion that we should have maybe, but I just.
Yeah, but the licensing fee in the city of Lethbridge is only $10 per cat. And they purposely keep it that low so that, it doesn't present a barrier and people can license and send a picture. And then it also helps them to sort of identify the cats that are more large, cats that really don't belong to a family, right? So it kind of helps with that as well, because the licensing fees are so low that, there shouldn't be a reason why you wouldn't want to license your cat for that kind of service to make sure that it stays safe and gets home, right? And so it does kind of work as a community benefit on both ways.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think that, sending to the bylaw and having them explore these kinds of things, you can come up with something that really would represent a good service to our community. And, shouldn't really create a lot of further conflict, because it is contentious. It is a contentious issue in our community.
Right. Does that address and help
Yes.
us if we
Yeah.
refer to the policy bylaw review?
Yeah, for sure. Do we need to make a thing, or can I just kind of go in there?
I think we need to make a motion.
Okay, so, I move that the policy, the cat policy, number 428-21, hereby be referred to the policy bylaw review committee for further discussion.
Any further discussion? Then we'll call question, all in favor? That is carried, thank you. All right, and then I believe that we're going to go into closed session here. Okay, we just need to get the wording from our minutes here for that motion. Okay, who would like to make the motion to go into closed session? You will, all right?
Sure.
Okay.
I move that council close the meeting to the public for agenda item 9F, Lethbridge County Parcel W as per section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act at 8:35 p.m.
Thank you. All in favor? That's carried, thank you. You always like doing those ones.